Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel and the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel, which is where you are right now. This is the July 2nd, 1983 edition of the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling Review Series. We open with Valentine and Mr. Benelo. Ultimately, Valentine comes in, hits some shots, and works over the leg for the majority, including a half crab. Also, the Valentine level forearms, as known, and he manages to get a tie up. Valentine, again, your multi time or multi month and multi time U.S. champion. There is a confrontation between Mike Rotundo and the new tag team champions, the Briscoe brothers. Obviously, the Briscoes stealing the championships, or I guess they would say not stealing, but Steamboat and Youngblood probably would say stealing the championships. Also, Rotundo kind of talking about the underhandedness of the Briscoes. Briscoes and the Briscoe brothers against Keith Larson and Rick McCord. McCord, of course, becoming Austin Idol in the weeks and months to come. Briscoes with some, takedowns and the like, and a lot of bragging by the Briscoes about the tag team championships, as well they should in the time period. The NWA tag team championships a pretty big deal. Some sideline, basic stuff here, and kind of the roll through, as it were, and we kind of get things going in a positive direction there. Roll through and a roll up by the Briscoes. They try to hook very basic maneuvers and a blind tag there. Briscoes getting some suplexes, both the front vertical and reverse suplex for their trouble. Before we go into the next segment in the series, which happens to be a highlight from a local arena with Wahoo McDaniels, who's returning to the territory against the Magic Dragon. I'm not quite sure why that match is put here, because they don't have an existing feud between each other. Speaking of existing feuds, though, the return of Ric Flair, Flair having Piper in his corner, or Piper having Flair in his corner, both wanting to get their hands on their respective adversaries. Good promo, worth checking out, as Piper wants Valentine and Flair wants Race, and we kind of get a tie to both of those going forward for Starrcade hype. Of course, we're probably, about 4 months away from Starrcade here, 4.5, something like that, but then we see more hype. Speaking of the Mike Rotundo returning to the area and not really having a clear definition of what he's trying to accomplish. Kind of just, talking about the television championship and other such there. Valiant and Orton versus Howard and Deaton, Joel Deaton, new in the area, and Jimmy Valiant kind of around there. Proof that they don't really have a huge value for Bob Orton Jr. here with the throwaway tag match with Jimmy Valiant, as it were. He does manage to get some roll throughs and basic stuff there. Again, there is a confrontation and a brawl in the studio between the Briscoes and Steamboat and Youngblood. Basically, they are finally called cowards. Also, as it has been mentioned, there have been several moments where the run between Valiant and or not Valiant, but Steamboat and Youngblood against the nature of everything is kind of off. Also, Dick Slater comes up with Vinny Valentino as an opponent here this week, and Slater obviously gets a little bit of ride time, a little bit of basic wrestling holds, tries to key lock on the arm, and brawls a bit around. Slater is trying to get every advantage he can, legal and illegal, including short clotheslines, chokes, and arm bars along the way. Slater obviously gets a pretty easy victory. Hardly Race out there next with a promo basically saying that Ric Flair isn't at his level. Speaking of promos, Dick Slater says he's been suspended several times, but he wants championship glory back and a decent run back for himself. And then we see the tag match, Jake Roberts and Dory Funk Jr. against a young Bret Hart and a Bill Howard tag partner. Hart, obviously a pretty big deal there. Hart coming in, spending the majority of the match in with Dory Funk. Funk tries to cut the ring off on Howard and does pretty well. Hart does come back in and spend the majority of the match in the ring. When Hart is in the ring, you get a very competitive version of a match. And again, Dory Funk Jr. spends a good bit of time in there. Howard and Jake Roberts go at it with a bit of a chop, punch, and strike battle. Overall, big body slams by Jake Roberts on Bret Hart, which I don't know that Jake Roberts and Bret Hart ever had a major series. Could have been interesting. I do know they had decent Saturday night's main event, but finally Funk gets the spinning toe hold on Bret Hart, and a pretty big deal there. The conclusion to the Paul Jones photo contest deal there is a pretty big deal, and Jones implies that the lady is unattractive, as it were, and kind of see continuation of a brawl there. Rufus R. Jones comes out to try to defend the lady and gets jumped out by Dory Funk Jr. and Jake Roberts to defend Jones. As we close the program, that is where it closes. We'll be back with more right after this.